Are you feeling in a photography rut? In a comfortable zone of same old, same old? In this video, I'm going to teach you 3 new skills to take your photography to a whole new level. If you stay till the end, I'll give you an extra tip, the one that I use personally to go from taking photos like this to photos like this. My name is Simon d'Entremont. I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for nature photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. That's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about trying new things. And I'm not talking about settings. I'm talking about retraining your photography brain. Reconditioning. Tip number 1 is to get out of your comfort zone by shooting a different focal length than your favorite. It's to put yourself in the penalty box and play intentionally with an impediment. In fact, pick up a focal length other than your favorite and use it for a week. What this will do is force you to look at every scene and every environment quite differently. If you're used to shooting wide-angle landscapes, for example, try shooting landscapes with a 70-200 instead. That will force you to look for small, micro compositions within the overall scene. You'll find yourself analyzing the scene quite differently as to where you can find the best photo. Here's another example of what you could find in landscape photography using a long lens. This was shot with a 500mm lens. Who says you need a wide angle to shoot landscapes? If you're used to shooting portraits at 85mm, try switching to 35mm for a while. It will force you to find other things to put into the photo because you can't isolate the subject anymore. I do this myself from time to time. Instead of taking my big 500mm f4 lens, I take my 100-400 lens. This lens is so sharp and amazing, sometimes the photos it can take with the fine feather detail are good enough that a photo will stand on its own. But with the 100-400 lens, I need to take a totally new approach to how I photograph wildlife. With the 100-400 lens, I need to take wider compositions that include more of the environment in my wildlife photos. I just can't rely on focusing solely on my subject. This is a great skill to keep developing as I look in my environment for better compositions, more tricks with light, and more opportunities for really interesting photos. The 100-400 lens also allows me new opportunities. With its minimum focus distance of 3 feet, I can get in close and take some really interesting photos that I can't take with my 500mm lens. There's a saying, if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's the case for me using my 500mm lens. I think of every shot as a portrait opportunity, but there are bigger and better compositions out there. I just need to expand my mind. Using my 100-400mm lens did that for me. Go out and use a different focal length than your favorite, and you'll be able to look at the scene much differently. The next step is to start shooting in black and white. There are a few reasons why shooting in black and white is great for reconditioning your photography brain. First, you can't rely on colors to make the shot. You need to focus much more on shapes and differences in tones between light and dark. It allows you to look at the scene much differently than when taking color photos. When you go back to shooting in color and the light is dark and gloomy, you'll have a huge advantage of not relying as much on color to make the shot. It'll make your eye look for shapes, look for patterns, and look for differences between light and dark to make the shot. Secondly, shooting in black and white forces you to have a clear subject in your photo. This is a challenge for beginner photographers who have photographs without a clear subject within it. When you don't have an obvious subject in a black and white photo, it really stands out. It looks like chaos. I tried black and white for this photo, it just didn't work. There wasn't enough of a clear path to my subject that was obvious in the photo. Shooting in black and white will train your brain to find a clear subject in the photo and to look at the rest of the photo as supporting cast members that add value to your subject rather than distract from it. Shooting in black and white will also train you to simplify your compositions. In black and white, less is more. Identify your subject and identify how to best reveal your subject to your observer. Maybe juxtapose your subject against something else in the photo, like big and small, wide and thin, or just find interesting shades of light and dark to really highlight your subject. After you've done some shooting in black and white, when you go back to color, you will have reconditioned your brain to find clear subjects, have simpler compositions, and to find the supporting cast members of shapes and tones to help support your subject in the photo. Tip number 3 is around not being afraid to experiment and not shoot the same angle as everyone else. If you shoot from the same angle as everyone else, you're going to get the same photo as everyone else. A number of us were photographing bald eagles, Everyone else went way to the right to try to get the sun behind them, just like the bird photography book would say. But I thought to myself, if I go way over to the left, I might be able to get them backlit, highlighting the sun through the beak, through the tail, through the feathers, and backlighting the snow as they move around. That approach gave me these photos, which had a very different look than if I would have been shooting with the sun at my back. And I promised you an extra tip, and that's the one that allowed my wildlife photography to go from this to this. And my tip is to start shooting a totally different genre of photography. You might be saying to yourself, did he just tell me I'm going to get better at shooting my favorite subject by not shooting my favorite subject? That's exactly what I'm saying. And how do I know it works? Because that's what I did myself. I started looking at my bird photos, noticing they were all starting to look the same. Bird on a stick, bird on a stick, bird on a stick, boas everywhere. I told myself I needed to stop documenting the birds and start making art out of them. But where to start? I had no artistic skill, no artistic training. I didn't know where to start. Then I thought to myself, who in nature photography understands good photographic principles? I thought to myself, landscape photographers do. Shapes, leading lines, colors, patterns, that's something that landscape photographers do really well. I had no idea if this would work. I bought myself a used but good quality lens off a local buy and sell market and started shooting landscapes. I soon realized I needed to be more mindful of the quality of the light, the type of subject I had, the foreground, the background, the colors, the patterns, and the shapes, all skills I was lacking in my wildlife photography. After a while, I started getting better and better at landscape photos. But what happened next was the game changer. It was when I picked up my 500mm lens again to go out and do wildlife photography. The next time I saw a bird, I thought to myself, if I move a little bit to the left, I can get the second bird in the photo as well to make a nice repeating pattern. Or instead of getting closer to this bird, I thought to myself, if I back up, I can actually include all of this lobster trap and the sunset along with this merlin. It'll make a much better photo than a tight portrait of the bird. And even though a bird photography rule says you should always have your bird's eye in focus, when I saw the scene, saw the matching colors, saw the symmetry, I thought to myself, this will make a great photo. You won't find this shot in a book on bird photography tips. By shooting a different genre of photography, you'll learn a whole new set of skills. By bringing those skills back to your favorite genre of photography, you'll really expand your skill set, your ideas, and your ability to identify in a photo what's possible and where you can break the rules. I really encourage you to push your limits. I'm confident if you go out and explore these new opportunities, you can find skills you didn't even know you had. You don't need tons of artistic talent. I know I didn't. I just came out looking for a new challenge. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and YouTube will show it to even more people. Get out there outside of your comfort zone and innovate. Take your photography to a whole new level. I know you can do it.